This is video number 4 for sections 3.3 and 3.4, QVT problems, interest problems. So this is another kind of QVT problem called an interest problem. Once again, let's do a little bit of background first, and then we'll take a look at the actual problem type. So take a look at this here. Suppose somebody has $2,000, they put it into an account. The account earns 6.75% interest. How much interest does that mean? What do they have? Well, the formula still applies. The Q times V equals T. In an interest problem, the Q stands for how much money you start with. So money at the start. The V, the valuation, is the interest rate. If you multiply how much money you start with by the interest rate, what you end up with is the total interest. So T here is total interest. Well, that means this example problem is very easy. I know how much money I started with, $2,000. I know what the interest rate is, 6.75%. Now be careful here. If you want to work with a percentage in a calculation, you need to change that percentage to a decimal. And so you do that by moving the decimal point 2 places to the left. So I would write down here 0.0675. That would be 6.75% as a decimal. If you multiply how much you have times the interest rate, what you get is your total interest. And going to the calculator, I got $135. So that's the answer to the question. How much interest would that be? $135. Okay, so with that as a bit of background, let's go now to the actual problem here. We've got this guy, Gabe. He's got some money laying around that he wants to invest. And he's got a couple of choices. He's got this risky stock, and he's got this safer mutual fund. And he's a risk taker. He's going to go ahead and put twice as much money in the stock compared to the mutual fund. His estimate is 8% interest from the mutual fund and 13% interest from the stock account. Of course, he doesn't know. If he knew, I'm sure he'd put all his money in the stock. He's just, trying to hedge his bets a little bit. His hope is to end up with $1,885 in interest, and he's just trying to figure out how much he should put where. Well, again, just like the last time, if we're going to use algebra to help us to solve this, we need to define a couple of variables. Where's the question? I think it comes right at the end. How much money should he put in each place? So I need one variable for the money that goes in the stock, and I need another variable for the money that goes in the mutual fund. I think I'll go ahead and use S to represent the stock money, and then let's use M to stand for the mutual fund money. Next, we'll go to that same QVT table. You can use that table for all these different types. The two rows would represent the stock as well as the mutual fund. And then you just have to think about what each box represent. Remember, Q in these problems stands for how much money you start with. V, the valuation, is the interest rate, and T is the total interest. Let's see, so this box would be how much money he started with in the stock. Well, I don't think I know that, but I gave it a name right here. We called it S. This box would be how much money he started with in the mutual fund. We gave that a name. We called that M. The valuation, remember, in an interest problem is the actual interest rate, and we were given that for each one. Let's see, where's the stock? The stock is the 13%, but don't write the percent, write it as a decimal. That would be 0.13 because I moved the decimal point 2 places to the left. And the mutual fund is 8%, that would be 0.08, moving the decimal point 2 places to the left. Remember, the last box you don't have to put any thought into. You just multiply the first two together. So this would be 0.13s, and this would be 0.08m. I now have all the information filled in, and I can go ahead and start writing equations. Again, I need a system. I need two equations since I have two things I don't know. I'm figuring that one of the equations is going to have to do with this column. It's going to be a quantity equation, and the other equation is going to have to do with this column. It's going to have something to do with the total interest. I got to go back to my problem and look for some more information. Last time, this first equation was really easy to write because we were given a total. But I don't have that here. Like, they never told me how much money Gabe has in all. I don't have that. In fact, the only amount issue that I'm told about is this very first sentence, that he's going to put twice as much money in the stock compared to the safer mutual fund. I need to turn that into an equation. Now, this can be tricky, and I find that in a sentence like this, it's helpful to restate the sentence using the word is. I believe here's how it would go. The risky stock money is twice as much as the safer mutual fund. Let me say that again. The risky stock money is twice as much as the mutual fund money. The reason I think that that's so helpful is that the word is tells you where to put the equal sign. It's really easy to write an equation for this now. Just translate word for word. The risky stock money. What's my name for that? Oh yeah, it was S. Is, that's the equal sign, twice as much as, or 2 times as much as, so 2 times as much as the mutual fund money, in other words, the M. There's my first equation, S equals 2M. To get the second equation, I need to be thinking about this column, something about the interest. Remember, this box is all the interest he's getting from the stock, and this box is all the interest he's getting from the mutual fund. Well, didn't they give me a total? Yeah, here it is. Here's the total of all that interest. That means I just have to add these two pieces together to get that total. Let's write that down. We added up the two parts of the interest to get the total interest. Notice that what we have now is a system of equations, two equations with two unknowns. I'll leave the algebra to you. In terms of a method, to me, this time, one of the methods is really clearly the easiest, and that would be the method of substitution, because one of the letters is already by itself. And so you could immediately just substitute this 2m in place of s in the other equation and solve. You may want to try that yourself. If you solve the system and you want to check yourself, here are the answers. They didn't come out nice. I had to do some rounding. I just rounded to the nearest cent. So I got $5,544.12 for the mutual fund money and $11,088.24 for the stock. In our next video, we'll consider the one final type of QVT problems.